China has always been seen as the great promise of the 21st century, the new Japan of this century. The country that was growing without stopping, and sooner or later would surpass the United States and dominate the world as the new economic superpower. This was the narrative that had been spreading for some years. And the plan was clear: explosive growth, technological innovation, gigantic investments, and of course, a real estate market that seemed like a tireless machine, building cities from scratch, in the blink of an eye, and feeding all that mass of consumers hungry for something new. But what if I told you that this house of cards is starting to fall? That behind that facade of shiny skyscrapers and endless construction, literally, there is a crisis that no one knows how it will end. A crisis that threatens not only the stability of China itself, but the balance of the global economy. Today, we will dive into this black hole of the Chinese real estate crisis. We will understand why the giant may be stumbling, and why the dream of surpassing the United States may have to wait much later. Get ready to discover the secrets, flaws, and pitfalls of a market that seemed indestructible. But it isn't. Before we start, sign up here, my dear friend, so that you can stay up to date with the business world every day. Let's go. Number 1. Ghost towns and the beginning of the problem. Have you ever heard of China's ghost towns? Entire neighborhoods, gigantic skyscrapers, everything brand new, and completely empty. No light, no people, no life. It sounds like a script from the movie I Am Legend, but it's real and current. A reality built with concrete expectations and an insane dose of economic illusion. Back in the 2000s, China was booming. The government wanted to turn farmers into urban consumers and pushed urbanization hard. The result? A real estate boom that became a national addiction. Buying property became fashionable, not to live in, but to invest. In addition to the stock market, many wealthy people bought entire floors of pre-launched buildings off-plan, with the expectation of doubling their value in the next 2 years. Apartments were sold out, like Apple shares. Buy, hold, and wait for them to appreciate. And the government only helped. Urbanization boosted the GDP, created jobs, and moved steel, copper, cement, and other commodities. It seemed like the magic formula for growth. But no one stopped to ask who the hell was going to live in so many buildings. Spoiler: no one. Despite its large population and economic growth, China is still considered a country with a predominantly poor population. So these, let's say, slightly more sophisticated developments, are not accessible to the entire population. Add this to the superinflated real estate market, and the result: lack of demand. Yes, my friends, China's real estate bubble was about to burst. Is there anything positive to be found in this? Well, at least now the Chinese middle class can buy a property to live in. A situation that was impossible a few years ago, when speculative fervor made real estate increasingly expensive and inaccessible. Number 2. Concrete pyramid, the collapse of construction companies. Enter the real estate developers. Evergrande, Country Garden, Vanke, and other giants. They sold properties before building, used the money to pay off old debts and start new projects. In practice, a pyramid scheme made of concrete. It worked for years, until the Chinese government put the brakes on with the 3 red lines policy in 2020. A rule that limited how much debt companies could take on. The money dried up. And then Evergrande went bankrupt. It even took its soccer team, which used to play for many Brazilians, with it, and which no longer exists today. Others followed suit. Country Garden, which was once the largest in the country, is on the verge of becoming dust. Millions of Chinese people have been left in the lurch, paying for properties that will never exist. Meanwhile, construction sites have become modern ruins, abandoned structures, exposed ironwork, entire neighborhoods looking like the scene of a zombie apocalypse. Zhengzhou, for example, has more than 80% of its housing projects incomplete or stalled. Kangbashi, the model city, was built for 1 million people and had less than 30,000 in the first few years. What was supposed to be the future has turned to dust, silence, and depression. Number 3. The domino effect, when concrete sinks the system. The problem? The real estate sector in China represents about 30% of GDP. 30%. It is a gigantic part of the economy. And when this sector goes under, it is not just the engineer who loses his job. The bank also goes bankrupt, the investor gets screwed, the consumer panics. The banks, especially the regional ones, are mired in bad debt. They lent billions believing in the myth of eternal appreciation. Now they are left with ghost land and empty buildings, unable to get rid of them or move on. Local governments have also gotten involved. Many of them depend on the sale of land to finance themselves. No buyers, no revenue. And then the cuts, defaults, and improvisations begin. The financial system begins to collapse. The government tries to put out the fire, it injects liquidity, cuts interest rates, and releases credit. But it's like throwing water on an oil fire, it barely works, and it splashes everywhere. Number 4. Crisis of confidence, the psychological factor. In addition to all this, the crisis is also one of confidence. And then things get serious. Imagine you work for years, save every penny, buy an apartment off plan, and the construction stops. The construction company disappears. The bank says there's nothing it can do. And the government? Pretends it didn't see it. Result, millions of Chinese are revolting and for the first time, stopping paying their mortgages. Yes, protests in China. People marching, shouting, banging pots and pans. This isn't just economics, it's almost a revolution. Trust, which is the invisible foundation of the entire financial system, is crumbling. Without trust, no one invests, no one consumes. And then, brother, no government bailout can hold it together. Number 5. And the world, is it falling together? You think it's someone else's problem? Think again. China is the second largest economy in the world. When it chokes, the whole world feels it. The Chinese construction industry consumes tons of steel, copper, oil, soybeans, or all the things we export. And if they stop buying, the bill comes here. International investors also have money stuck in this sector. Funds, banks, companies, all with some exposure. The risk of contagion is real. Some people are comparing this crisis to the American subprime crisis of 2008. Is that an exaggeration? Maybe. But the smell of burning is strong. Xi Jinping is trying to balance it, saving the sector without depending on it anymore. But it's a tricky juggling act. He wants to reduce the bubble and maintain growth at the same time. It's like changing the engine of an airplane while it's in mid-flight, and without a parachute. Conclusion: a giant imploding? China built its rise on concrete, debt, and optimism. But now, this structure is cracking from the inside. The bubble has burst. The dust is still rising. And the whole world is watching, wondering, has the next big global crisis already begun? And no one noticed? Maybe. Maybe not. But one thing is certain, when a giant stumbles, everyone feels the blow. Subscribe to the channel and leave a like.